Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Nick again with another financial video, and today I got a special one for you, especially if you're a parent, you're thinking about becoming one, or if you have nieces and nephews and you're wanting to invest in their college education. This is the video for you. Now, look, even if you're not any of those, all right, please stay, watch this video. I really need the views, but you can also invest in this account for yourself. So there's that. Now, as you can see from the title, I'm talking about the 529 college savings plan. Now, what's interesting is there has been some people that I've talked to that are saving for their kids' college. However, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saving. They're not investing. So my goal is, by the end of this video, have you consider whether or not a 529 plan is right for you. Because honestly, with the sheer amount of tax benefits you get, with the ability for your money to grow tax-free, and the ability to spend this money tax-free as long as it's spent on qualified educational purposes, this is truly like a college investment plan on steroids. All right. So with that being said, through this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what a 529 account is. I'm going to give you the advantages. I'm going to give you some drawbacks. And of course, like every video, I'm going to give you some steps that you can take if you're considering investing in a 529 account. All right. So with that being said, y'all, sit back, relax, make sure you like the video. And without further ado, let's begin. All right. So what is a 529 account? A 529 account is just a tax advantage college savings account, okay? Where you can put money in you can put money in and it'll grow tax free. You actually have to invest this money with after tax money, okay? And as long as you're using it on qualified educational purposes, right? You can spend this money tax free. All right. So in a way, it's kind of like the HSA, right? But it doesn't have all of the tax advantages that an HSA has. And remember, this is for qualified educational expenses only. Now, there's two types of 529 plans that you can save in, okay? You have your traditional educational savings plan, okay? So this does include all your expenses like room and board, tuition, computers, and whatnot. However, you also have a prepaid tuition plan, okay? Now, only 11 states offer this. And what this is it gives you the ability to to choose your kids' colleges ahead of time, right? And you can pay for it ahead of time in order for you to lock in the current prices, right? Because as we all know, as we get older and the years go by, college education gets more and more expensive. So this is a way for you to go ahead, lock in that rate if you really want to, and you don't have to pay those high expenses as you go forward. Now, the thing about this one is that it only covers tuition. It doesn't cover room and board and all that other stuff. All right, so keep that in mind if you do choose this one. Now, it can also be used, right, for private schools for grades K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. You can use this money for college and graduate plans, right? And you can also use it for registered apprentice programs, right? Now, when it comes to K through 12, there is a $10,000 a year limit. And just to throw a random fact out there, right? The registered apprentice programs, right, that you're able to now use your 529 account through, that was created in 2017 through the Trump administration, right? Now, although the plan was created by the federal government, all right, the actual 529 plan is controlled by individual states. So every state has their own specific 529 plan. All right, now this is significant because in a lot of states that do have state income tax, you can actually use your 529 account as a tax write-off, right? So this can actually bring down your taxable income in certain states, right? And so, that is important to consider as you go forward. There are actually no maximum contribution limits, okay? So unlike the 401k and the Roth IRA, to where you can only invest a certain amount each year, this is not the case for the 529 plan. However, each state does have a total amount that you can that you can invest in total, right? So, for example, in the state of Texas, where I'm from, you cannot invest more than $500,000 into this account. It's a lot of money into an account like that. But yeah, you can only invest 500,000, and each state has a certain amount to where you can only, once you reach that threshold, you can't invest anymore. All right, and lastly, qualified expenses. All right, include tuition, room and board, computers, printers, etc. Right, pretty much anything that's needed as a college student in order to make it through school. For the most part, you can use those for qualified expenses. Okay, y'all. Now it's time for me to give you some of the advantages of a 529 account. Okay, so first, as I mentioned before, there are no yearly contribution limits, right? So the way I see it, this actually allows you for more flexibility, okay? So maybe there's a year to where you want to put a lot more into the 529 account that you did the previous year, or there's just one year to where, hey, I already filled up all my other investment accounts, I made a lot of money this year, let me push in more money into this 529 account this year, then you can. And then next year, right, if you end up contributing significantly less, right, what you did the previous year may make up for that, right? So you don't have to, there's not a contribution limit that you actually have to push yourself to do, right? So it actually gives you a little more flexibility in that area. Next is, anyone can invest in somebody's 529 account, all right? So I have one for my little girl, all right? And so that means my parents can invest in it, her aunts, her uncles can invest in it, her cousins, right? Anybody, within the family or even outside of the family, they can invest in somebody's 529 account. So right here, I put, holiday present, right? Because really, it could be a Christmas present. Hey, here's a card. Instead of giving you like some kind of stuffed animal, hey, here's a card with like $50 that she can put in her 529 account or whatever. Look, me as a parent, I would like that, right? She has enough stuff as it is, right? Anyways, so you can actually make a 529 account for an external family member. So, kind of as I said earlier in the video, let's say you have a little niece, right? You can actually create a 529 account for them. You can be the beneficiary. You can be the owner and then they'll be the beneficiary, right? If you're a grandparent, you can make one for your grandchild and so on and so forth. So this gives you a lot of flexibility, to invest in whoever's college education that you really care about within your family. It gives you the ability to actually do that, all right? So next, this money can also be used for situations like dual credit in high school, trade schools, and crafts such as cosmetology and culinary school. Now, here's the thing though. When it comes to dual credit, it's for tuition only. I have no idea why that's the case, but it's for tuition only, all right? Now, you can actually use the 529 account for yourself, right? So the way this works is that you're the owner and whoever you set up the account for is the beneficiary. So this could really come into play if you're somebody who is interested in continuing their education, and by the time your beneficiary gets to a certain age, and they decide that, hey, I don't want to go to college, or maybe, the money that you had saved in there is not all spent, right? You can actually use that money for yourself to further your education. So that's pretty cool. All right, and then lastly, you can actually invest in an out-of-state 529 account, right? So I'm from Texas. If I wanted to, I can invest in a 529 account in New York. I can invest in a 529 account in Arizona. And then really the good thing about this is, let's just say that in a couple of years you're getting ready to move to Arizona. And Arizona is one of the states that you have to pay state income tax with. However, if you invest in a 529 account, right, it can lower your taxable income. So instead of just doing it in the state of Texas, right, through investing in a 529 account through the state of Texas, where it has no state income tax, so you don't get any kind of like tax benefit, you can just go ahead and invest in the one in Arizona since you're getting ready to move there. And so by the time you get there, you'll have that tax write-off. All right, so strategy. All right, y'all, so now it's time for some of the drawbacks of a 529 account. So the first one is, look, just like your Roth IRA, just like your HSA, just like your 401k, right? This account is best used when it's used for the specific purpose that it's made for. All right, so, you're gonna save a whole lot of money in this 529 account, right? And if you don't use it correctly, right, then you sometimes you can look at it as, man, I just wasted money because I didn't use it correctly. All right, so this is made for college purposes, for educational purposes. It's meant to be used for qualified educational purposes. All right, that's where you get your best value out of it. Next is, look, if you don't use it correctly, you'll have to suffer a 10% penalty in taxes. Okay, just like every other, investment, retirement tax advantage account that you invest in. 10% penalty in taxes is the penalty if you don't use it correctly. All right, so next, your beneficiary can decide not to go to college, or after they do go to whatever college they go to, all the money is still not used. All right, so just imagine you saving $200,000 in this account just for the person to say, I don't want to go, right? So I'm not trying to say that to deter you, right? But that is something to consider. You know what I mean? So every account that you invest in has some kind of risk or whatever, but this is really the biggest risk of a 529 account. You know what I mean? So you just have to decide if it's rather safe than sorry, right? Or, if you'll be okay with just taking that 10% penalty, or, you also have the ability to transfer it to somebody else or to keep it for yourself, if that's what you choose to do with that account. But there is always that chance that the beneficiary that it was made for just decides to not go to school at all. All right, and then lastly, you can get penalized if you don't use it for the correct expenses. All right, so yeah, you can use it for computers and printers and whatnot, right? But if you're not sure what you can actually use it for, don't assume. Make sure you ask, okay, whether it's through the brokerage that you're using or whatever that is. Make sure you ask so you don't get penalized for not using it correctly. All right, y'all. We finally made it to the steps that you can take if you choose that a 529 plan is right for you. So let's get to it. All right, so if you decide that a 529 plan is right for you, okay, the first thing you want to do is decide whether or not you want the traditional savings 529 account or a prepaid 529 account. So that'll be the first thing. The next thing is going to be, do your research, right? So if you're interested in investing one of these out-of-state plans, do your research and develop a strategy for it if you're interested in one of those, okay? Next, consider what monthly amount you want to put into this 529 account, right? And try to plan on automating it, right? That's what I do. I have about $50 coming out every month, from my bank account into my daughter's 529 plan, right? And I don't even think about it. All right, so what they say is the more you automate, the less you have to think about and the more you'll actually do it. And the more you have to think about, right, the less that you'll probably do it, right? Because you got to think about it more, okay? So think about automating. All right, so next is actually consider using one of these brokerage accounts, these traditional brokerage accounts like Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, like all of these have their own 529 plan over the state-specific 529 plan. Okay, so let me explain this real quick. So I told you earlier that every state has their own specific 529 plan. That means that, you can go to the state-specific college website, right, and invest in the 529 account through that state, all right? Here's the kicker to that, though, all right? A lot of those state-specific 529 plans, their fees are a lot higher than what you may get from a traditional brokerage, okay? And if you live in a state to where you're not getting any kind of tax advantage on the 529 plan, right? Going through the state traditional 529 plan is probably not going to be your best route. And here, I got an example for you. So like I said earlier, I'm from the state of Texas, okay? And if you go to texascollegesavings.com, it tells you on that website that the portfolio fees is going to cost you on a yearly basis anywhere from 0.6 to 1%, right, of the portfolio cost. All right, so that's hitting 1% man, that's a lot. After a long period of time, that's really going to eat up into your profits, okay? Compared to the Fidelity NH Portfolio 2033 529 plan, it's going to cost you 0.14%, okay, to manage on a yearly basis. That's significantly lower than both of these, all right? And the state of Texas has no state income tax, so you're not going to get any kind of tax benefit from it. So why would you do this? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is going to be your best option unless you do your research and you find a reason other than what I have, to where you can decide to actually do that. So consider one of these traditional brokerages for your 529 account, right? If you live in a state that has no state income tax, or even if it does, right? Consider one of these because it may be a better option for you. And lastly, have an amount in mind ahead of time that you want to save in this 529 account, right? Because one of the problems you can come into this 529 account is saving too much money, right? And maybe you only want to save it for your kids' college fund, and you don't really care about transferring it to somebody else, right? Kind of have that in mind, right? And kind of think of a backup plan just in case your kids don't want to go to college, right? So maybe that's you investing in your own education in the future if they decide not to go, or transferring it to another family member's 529. Transferring it to another beneficiary, right? So they can go to college, or even say, look, I did the best I could. Just give me my money back. I'll take the taxes and 10% penalty. That's totally fine if that's what you choose to do, because this is your money. Personal finance is personal, okay? But just when it comes to these things, right, just make sure that you kind of have somewhat of a plan going forward. And to go along with that, maybe consider not over investing in this account. You know what I mean? Maybe it's hey, I just want 50,000 in here. And, after that 50,000, here you go. And if that doesn't work, then, it's up to them to find the rest of it, or, whatever. But think about maybe not over investing. But if you do, by any stretch of the means, go ahead and do that. But, as far as all of these go, just make sure you have a plan going forward into your 529 account, because like I said, this is such a specific type of account, right? And there is a lot of risk kind of going into it, depending on whether or not this money is going to be used and how it's going to be used. All right. So with that being said, y'all, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative, because just like all my other ones, I've done a ton of research on this, and I am actually invested in this account as well as all the other accounts I've talked about on this channel. All right. So with that being said, make sure you like the video, comment down at the bottom, right? Tell me how you liked it, anything I can do better in the future. Share, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, y'all, make sure you're being safe out there, and peace out.